Welcome to my channel. As you guys know, I am Curtis A. Merriweather Jr. I was named a game changer by the White House in 2020, specifically by the White House Policy Advisor for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. But today, I want to serve as your government contracting coach and mentor. So thank you guys for coming onto the channel. And before I get into my preliminaries, I just want to take a moment. And if you've been watching content on this channel before, if you haven't subscribed, I want you to subscribe, like, share, and leave me a comment. And one of my goals is to make sure I continue to provide action-oriented but practical content to assist you in your government contracting and business journey. Now, along the way, you're going to see this channel change a little bit. We're going to still talk about government contracting, of course, but we're also going to talk about some other things that are of interest to me, like real estate, private equity, the world of finance. So as you start making your money in government contracting, I want to start showing you different ways I deploy capital to make sure that we continue multiple streams of revenue going. Okay. Now, that aside, the purpose of this channel is I want to help entrepreneurs overcome business challenges. And the way that I do this is by providing education, consultation, and training support. And our channel is unlike others because we combine the practical and the theoretical. I've invested very heavily in doctoral education. As many of you know, I am actively working on my PhD. In 10 days, as of the date of this recording, I will be defending my PhD dissertation. So soon, I'll be Dr. Curtis. Now, I do encourage you to follow me on social media and then go to our website at 8figuregovcon.com to get an idea of what we're providing from a government contracting, consulting, and advisory support services. You can also go there and book one-on-ones with me for strategic consulting. There's a lot of stuff there, so I do encourage you to go and check out our website. Now, you can go directly to our course library, and the URL is on the screen. Now, to commemorate and to celebrate my 10 days as of to date, the date of this recording, of defending my PhD dissertation, we are providing a 23% off coupon code. That's going to be PhD 2023. I think last week I put up PhD 23. Either one of those coupon codes will work. Now, that coupon code will expire on March 4th. Now, I defend my PhD dissertation on February 28th, 2023. Matter of fact, at 2 p.m. to be exact. But that coupon code will expire until Saturday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can get 23% off of any of our programs, whether that's the 5X Mastery Bundle or individual course offerings or a mentorship program or any kind of strategic consulting. So just wanted to get that out the way. Now, I have a great topic for you today. And I was going back and forth about what to name it. But before I get into that, again, if you have not subscribed, I want you to subscribe, share, comment, like, leave me a comment. I love reading your comments. And matter of fact, today's conversation is a direct byproduct of previous conversations. So we're going to be talking about today 5 lies that prevent individuals from pursuing government contracting. Now, I could have called this 5 myths, but no, these are actual lies. Lies, what we believe, good or bad, either determines our ultimate success or failure. We are the byproduct of current as well as past thoughts and actions. And this is extremely important. So what we think says a lot about our future success. So it's super important what you think about and what thoughts occupy your mental space, because they will in fact determine your ultimate success or failure. So with that being said, I want to talk about 5 lies that individuals have told me. These are their thoughts about government contracting. And these lies that they've told themselves. And, uh, false evidence appearing real. This is actually rooted in fear. So people give themselves reasons for why they can't or should not move forward. But let me go ahead and say this. If you continue doing the same thing you've been doing and expect different results, many say that is the definition of insanity. So if you want to see a change in future outcomes, you have to change your current operating paradigm. So what I endeavor to do in this video today is to help destroy some of these lies. I'm not even going to call them myths. They're lies that we tell ourselves, and we have to address them so that they don't hold us captive to the potential and opportunities that we should have and enjoy. So without further ado, let's jump into some of these lies. Now, here we go. Lie number one. Someone told me this in the comment section one day. They said the government market is saturated. I'm seeing all of these coaches and all of these programs. Surely the market is crowded, and how can I make any money? And my answer to them was, we're talking about a multi-trillion-dollar industry. Sir, ma'am, it is by no means saturated. Just this year alone, and I put some estimates up here. If you know anything about the budgetary process, they put the budget in for the next fiscal year in the previous fiscal year. So right now we're in FY 2023. As of this recording, that started on October 1, and it will end on September 30th, 2023. So our fiscal year actually started last year. Now, the executive office started doing their budgeting for 2020, fiscal year 2023, last calendar year. And then of course the fiscal year started last calendar year. So I don't want to confuse you. So let me just move on. So we got more than $1 trillion of discretionary spending. Now, if you know a little bit about government contracting, you know that the federal budget is made up of the mandatory and the discretionary budget. Now, if you want to know more about this, take my course. We spend a great bit of time talking about it, just from a perspective of helping you understand the opportunity. So we got more than $1 trillion of spending. So you'll see some numbers that look at the last year's proposed number, which was 1.598 trillion. Now, I think what was actually approved in the December, early January was 1.582 trillion, or $1.582 trillion. It's the discretionary base. Now, on the screen, let me blow it up slightly. On the screen, you'll see roughly $234 billion in Air Force spending, $231 billion in Navy spending, VA, $135 billion, Health and Human Services, $127 billion. Let's go down to NASA, $26 billion. So you got 851 billion, what we call non-defense spending or federal civilian work, and you got 773 billion dollars in defense related spending. That's a lot of money. And you see that the federal civilian, which is where anything that doesn't require clearance is, no intelligence community, or intel community, no work that requires a clearance, non-defense work, that makes up a bigger budget allocation than defense. Now, historically, DOD, or Department of Defense, Army, Air Force, Navy, the military agencies, that was most of our budget. But we're seeing now a rise in federal civilian spending, non-DOD work, and that's at almost $1 trillion by itself. We're talking $851 billion. That's a lot of money. But I digress. But to put this in bigger perspective, or much larger perspective, we got Barnard, Arnault, and family. Now, Barnard, Arnault, and family is the richest family in the world. Now, in the United States, Elon Musk is the richest person in the United States. He's not the richest person in the world. I actually pulled this from Forbes. You can go and pull this and check the numbers. But as of this morning, the date of this recording, $214.9 billion is the net worth of Bernard Arnault and family. Now, the reason why I pulled this, you have to multiply his wealth by almost 7 times, actually 6.98 times, to just match 1 year of discretionary spending in the US government. I'm not even talking about the mandatory budget, which is well over 5 trillion. You take the discretionary budget and the mandatory budget, you're looking at over $5 trillion. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but you're talking about more than 5 trillion. But we're just looking at the discretionary spending, which is where most of our government contracting dollars comes from. But that's a whole nother video. If you want to learn more about that, let's jump in my class. We could talk about that in great detail. Now, let's put this in perspective. Now, the Bernard Arnault family, and I'm just using him for an example because I want to demystify this myth that there is not enough room. Bernard Arnault oversees the LVMH empire. This is the Louis Vuitton. So all my women who may be watching who like the Louis Vuitton bags and the accessories, this is the family that you're purchasing from. They got about 70 fashion cosmetic brands. In January 2021, the Louis Vuitton LVMH acquired American jeweler Tiffany and Company for $15.8 billion. So all the women who love those kind of like light green boxes, believe to be the largest luxury brand acquisition ever. LVMH spent $3.2 billion in 2019 for the luxury hospitality brand Bellman, which owns and manages 46 hotels, trains, and river cruises. And the father, who got the brand kind of started, got his start by putting up $15 million to buy Christian Dior in '85. And then it goes on to talk about the children. But I bring him up. We can see that this family has great or immense wealth. However, it is a drop in the bucket, comparatively speaking. Now, before I move on to my next point, I want to talk about what is $1 trillion. I'm gonna pull my notes up briefly because I took some notes here. $1 million. If I took $100 bills and I stacked them up, $1 million in $100 bills is 40 inches. So we're talking 3 1/3 feet, about the height of a chair. That's $1 million. So I took $1 million and I put them in $100 bills only, and I stacked them up on top of each other. I got a pile that's about 3 1/3 foot high, about the height of a chair. It's 40 inches. $1 billion. I want to put this in context to let you know this is a lot of money. So don't tell me that the market is saturated. $1 billion stacked up $100 bills is 40,000 inches. So what is 40,000 inches equivalent to? 0.63 miles. You heard me? Stacked up end to end, it's going to be 0.63 miles high in the air. And let me give you a hallmark. The Burj Khalifa, this is in Dubai. It is the world's tallest building. I think it stands at a little more than 500 miles. No, that's not true. 0.5 miles in height. I think it's like 5'10", but don't quote me on that. But the Burj Khalifa, it's in Dubai. It's the world's tallest building at 1/2 mile roughly in height, a little more. So we're talking more than 1/2 mile of money stacked up, 0.63 miles to be exact. That's $1 billion. $1 trillion is 40 million inches stacked end to end. That's 631 miles. Now, this is 2.5 times as high as the International Space Station. Now, I want to give you another hallmark. A lot of my viewers are in the continental United States. So this is a trip from Atlanta to DC. The trip from Atlanta to DC, give or take, is about 640 miles. This is a 9 to 10 hour car ride, depending on how fast you drive. So it's 9 miles shy of the 631 miles that we could put end to end to give us $1 trillion. That's a lot of money. Now, these are annual budgets. So I think it takes a whole lot to saturate this market. Again, I'm just talking about the discretionary budget. I'm not even talking about the mandatories. We're talking 1 trillion 5, whether you look at the 1.58T that was just passed in January, or you look at the initial forecast of 1.5958 trillion. Either way, that is a lot of money. All right, let's keep moving. Number 2, this is the second lie that keeps people from pursuing government contracting. I need an SBA certification. I need an 8A or a HubZone or SDVOSB or WOSB. Now, let me be very clear. A certification of any type does not warrant or guarantee success in government contracting. Can it help? Yes. However, and I'm going to just pick on the 8A program for a second. The 8A program has a 2-year requirement. They want to make sure you have 2 years of business experience before you even apply for the 8A certification. Now, can you waive the 2-year requirement? Yes. However, it is not something that I recommend. And you say, well, Kurt, why don't you recommend that? Because the reality is it takes you a couple of years to understand all the moving pieces and parts in government contracting. So you only have 9 years of that particular certification. And once your 9-year period is over, you either you graduate through being in the program 9 years, or you exceed the small business size standard thresholds, whether that's either based on dollar amount or employee count. So those are the 2 ways you graduate from the 8A program. So what often happens is people get this certification prematurely, and they waste 2, 3, 4 years trying to figure out just how to run their business in this space, and they don't maximize on the value of it. So these certifications do not guarantee long-term success. And I'm still picking on the 8A program. I'm just using this one because it's the program I'm familiar with. I used to be an 8A. I used to be an 8A company at one point, and so these programs don't guarantee success. And what you'll often see is a lot of companies get punch drunk off of the 8A certification. They get used to the 8A set asides and sole sources, and they never really learn the skills to master the business development, capture management, winning work processes. And so oftentimes what happens, you'll see these companies go and have, a year or 2 after graduating from the program, because they can no longer rely on that designation to win work. This is a huge problem. No one really talks about it. But the SBA 8A certification program is something that needs to be definitely, certifications do not guarantee long-term success. And I'm just going to pick on the 8A program for 1 second. The 8A program is a 9-year program. And what oftentimes happens is companies will sometimes be anxious and feel like they need this certification to be successful, and they will apply for the waiver for the 2-year exemption. What oftentimes happens is they spend a lot of time trying to figure out the nuance of how to operate their business in the government in this space. And time is just going by. This is one of those certifications that waits on no one. And one of the tragedies that I see in the 8A program is once 8A companies graduate, it's not uncommon for you to see their revenues go in half within 2 or 3 years after graduating the program. You say, well, Kurt, why would that happen? Well, that would happen because most of their revenue is based on 8A set-asides and sole sources. They never really learn how to compete in the open market. Let me give you a news flash. A small business set-aside is a set-aside. So most time people talk about social economic set-asides, they're normally just talking about 8A, HubZone, woman-owned, SDVOSB, and then you got the misinterpretations from FAR Part 13. And that's a conversation for a different day. Matter of fact, we're going to talk about it in a future video. But the small business designation is a restricted category unto itself. It's not full and open, meaning large business can't play in that pool. It is a restricted category. It is not uncommon when you go after proposals to see unrestricted, full and open, and restricted categories. A small business set aside is a restricted category, just like 8A, just like HubZone, just like woman-owned small business, just like service-disabled veteran-owned small business. Those are just further permutations or further decompositions of small business, but they all fall under the small business umbrella. But I digress. Number three, this is a reason, this is a lie people tell me for why they can't pursue government contracts. They don't have great credit or large savings. Now, let me go ahead and give you a news flash. Typically, when you start a new business, I don't care what your credit is, and I don't care how much money you have in savings. Typically, the bank is not going to give you a business loan. Now, can you probably get a personal line of credit? Possibly. But typically, the bank is going to require 3 years of taxes, 3 years of financial statements, income statement, balance sheet, and maybe a statement of cash flows. But typically, the two they normally ask for is the income statement, known as a profit and loss statement, and the balance sheet. They want to see what's coming in and out of the business, and they want to see the assets and liabilities of the business. Those are the two main ones they're going to ask for. So even with great credit and no business history, it's going to be a stretch to get a traditional or conventional line of credit. That's just the reality. But these are the reasons people tell me for why they can't get started in government contracting. I don't have great credit is what they'll tell me. Or I don't have a whole bunch of money in savings. If you go back to one of my first videos, when I started talking about government contracting, I talk about how I got started. And just you can go, I'll link the video at the end, but just so you can go back and watch it. But I'm gonna give you a quick summarized 2-3 minute version. When I got started in government contracting, first of all, I worked for the federal government. I was a computer engineer for the federal government, and I also had some program management responsibility. Now, the year before launching the company, my wife was laid off from her 6-figure government contracting job due to a merger and acquisition. She was a controller, which is, right under the CFO, so right under the chief financial officer. So she was the controller for I don't want to say the type of firm it was, but she was a controller for a government contracting firm that went through a merger and acquisition. And if you know anything about mergers and acquisitions, big fancy way for saying one company buys another. The back office, which is your HR people, your finance people, you'll start having redundant roles, different people, one with one company, the other one with another company. So they already had a controller. So my wife was let go from her job. Didn't do anything wrong. We don't need 2 controllers. So she was let go a year prior to us starting the firm. So the amount of revenue that I was used to coming into my household, I could no longer count on that. I had a young family. I had kids in preschool and elementary school, in private school, mind you. We had just bought a newer home in an exclusive community in the state that I resided at the time. It's a golf course, pools, tennis courts, etc. And then we had new vehicles. So I had a lot of new debt that I had acquired. And not to mention, when my wife got laid off from her job a year prior, my credit took a beating because we were both 2 6-figure earners, and one of those 6-figure earners is no longer making 6 figures. It put a damper on our financial situation. So my credit was not where it could have been. And my savings was next to non-existent because I just put down a significant down payment on the house that we purchased. So, however, even with all of those things going on, but my wife being laid off for the year prior and not having all the resources that I could have or wanted to have, I still was able to find a way. In a previous video, I talked about one of our roles as entrepreneurs is to become great problem solvers. I had a problem that I had to solve. I didn't have enough money coming in, and I had started this government contracting organization on paper. So I had filed my articles of incorporation, and I had a website, and I did my, well, we didn't SAM back then. Well, today you would call it SAM. Back then it was the CCR, the Central Contracting Registry. I did all of that, but I had a whole bunch of reasons telling me not to do this because life was not as favorable as it once had been. When I had the idea to do this, I was in a much better position financially, but life happened, and life is going to happen to us all. However, those are not valid reasons to put your dream for financial security and financial security and to create multi-generational wealth, you have to move forward. So you not having great credit or large savings is not a reason not to get started. I think I told the story on that video, that early video where I cashed out my 401k. And this was right after the housing crisis. And I had built a nice amount of money invested in my 401k in the federal space. We call it a thrift savings plan. But it was decimated after the housing crisis. So all the money that I had was gone, literally evaporated. And I think when I cashed it out, I might have had $12,000. And if you know anything about cashing out a 401k after you leave a job, the penalties and the taxes were outrageous. So I think once it was all said, I might have had $10,000, which you say, oh, but I don't even have that. That is not a lot of money. And the reason why I say that is because our first contract was doing work overseas. And we had to have something called Defense Base Act, DBA insurance. And the DBA insurance for one employee was $6,000. So of that 10,000, 6,000 went to insurance. I haven't made any money yet. I got 4,000 left. And no one has a job. But I digress. I'm not telling you to do anything that's going to put you or your family in a vulnerable spot. The whole purpose of this talking point is to let you know that you do not have a valid excuse. Not having great credit and large savings is not an excuse. And I talk about in my classes, I talk about how we overcome those burdens. That is not a valid reason why you should not be getting started. But let's move on. Someone told me this. This is all of these lies I'm talking about. Number 4, college degree. Everything that I'm talking about in this video, someone literally told me why they couldn't get started or why they were not having success. One of them was, I don't have a college degree. I believe in education, but education is not confined to a college campus or university. Now, you guys know I'm working on my PhD. When I got started on this video, I talked about defending my dissertation 10 days as of the date of this recording. But education is not confined to a classroom. When we start talking about government contracting, I'm looking to discover what are your transferable skills. What things have you learned along the way that we can find value in providing to the federal government? That may be administrative experience, prior federal civilian experience. Like I worked for the military, but I wasn't in the military. I worked for the Navy, but I wasn't in the Navy as an officer or as an enlisted person, but I was a civilian for the Navy. I was an engineer for the Navy. I was not military personnel. I was considered a federal civilian. Maybe you have prior military experience. Maybe you served in the Navy or the Army or the Coast Guard or the Air Force, National Guard. Maybe you have prior service experience working for the military. Maybe you have experience in sales. Maybe you've done none of that, but you got sales experience. That sales experience you can learn how to do business development and capture management. Maybe you got team building. Maybe you know how to build teams. Maybe you've worked for a network marketing company, and network marketing companies are great because they give you a lot of skills that are transferable. But the ultimate question we're trying to address here is, what value can you offer the federal government and prime contractors? What value? And I'm not even going to talk about it. I felt it coming. I'm going to leave it alone. What value are you offering the federal government? What is it that you can do that your competition cannot? And I want to open up a can of worms, but I'm not. I'm going to just keep moving because if I sit here, I'm going to talk about something that I did not intend on talking about in this video. And then last but not least, number 5, I do not have anything to offer or sell the federal government. This is what people tell me. So in the previous slide, we talked about your college degree and transferable skills. Now, one of the exercises I take my students through who come to me and say, hey, I'm taking the course, but I'm not quite sure what I want to do. This is quite common, by the way. We work through going through and figuring out what transferable skills they have that we can create a niche in. Now, if you got a coach who's telling you don't need a niche, run from that coach, because every major company that we do business with today whether that's Apple, whether that's Samsung, whether that's Range Rover, pick your favorite brand. They all have a niche. They're not doing everything. Even Chick-fil-A has a niche. You are not going to Chick-fil-A and getting a hamburger. You're going to Chick-fil-A to get chicken. So when you tell me I don't have anything to offer, the government buys with 19 major categories, from clothing, textiles, and subsistence, uh, facilities and construction. And these are not all of them. These are just a subset. Industrial products and services, IT, office management, professional services, security and protection, travel and lodging. And that's when I look at the federal market from a category management perspective. And there are 19 of them. I did not list 19. Or I can look at government contracting from an industry perspective. Now, there are at least 115 industries, from animal production, education, home health care, postal service, real estate, sound recording and video production, transportation and warehousing, waste management. Now, what I did on this slide is put some things that you might not have thought about. You probably didn't think about animal production. In a previous video, one of my guests was talking about their client selling dog food to the federal government. The federal government buys almost everything. And when we got started in this conversation, we talked about the $1 trillion plus in discretionary spending. So when you tell me that you don't have anything to offer, I'm going to send you back to the category management list and the industries. And more than likely, you had a job before you decided to become a government contractor. So what we have to do is match those transferable skills, those capabilities and those core competencies you develop, and map that into a service and or product offering. But that's all I want to talk about today. I wanted to address the 5 lies that people tell me for why they can't become government contractors. So the whole purpose of this episode was to dispel some of those myths, those I was going to say myths, some of those lies, because what they are. Because you can get started. You need to take action. And I would love to serve as your coach. So I recommend, if you have not, go to our website at 8figuregovcon.com, go all the way down to the bottom, join our mailing list. And if you find something in that URL in our course library store, take advantage of the 23% off coupon code that's valid until March 4th of 2023. This is for me actually extending a government contracting gift to you as a result of me getting ready to defend my PhD dissertation in 10 days as of the date of this recording. So that's my way of saying thank you to you. And I really want to give you the tools that you need to be successful. Now, people ask me all the time, okay, Kurt, I want to get started. And I normally give them a time frame. So I'm not the guy who has you out here chasing waterfalls. If you're looking to make $1 million tomorrow, I'm probably not your guy. If you're looking to learn how to not do the work and just make a check, I'm not your guy. But if you're looking to really learn how to build a viable, sustainable business, and you want to learn how to do hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in a reasonable amount of time, I definitely recommend you check out the course. But that's all I have for now. Thank you guys for tuning in. I look forward to reading your comments. And if you have not already, I'm going to remind you again, if you have not already, subscribe, share, comment, hit the notification bell so you can be informed anytime I drop a new video. And I look forward to seeing you in future episodes. Now, before I get out of here, I want you to go back and watch some of my other videos. But until next time, you guys have a great day